Manchester United held a commemorative service at Old Trafford today as the club paid their respects to the 23 people who were killed in the Munich air disaster 60 years ago. Manager Jose Mourinho and his current crop of stars attended the service, while Old Trafford legends such as Sir Bobby Charlton, who survived the plane crash, and Sir Alex Ferguson also attended. This service included readings and poems ahead of a minute's silence at 15:04 Greenwich Mean Time, marking the time of the plane crash 6 decades ago. Eugenie Bouchard set for another Super Bowl date with lucky fan Man City star Benjamin Mendy braves cold as he celebrates Super Bowl winger on Aubameyang and Mkhitaryan debuts in win over Everton. Klopp talks to the press after intense draw against Tottenham forward Harry Kane reaches 100 Premier League goals. Pochettino praises ballsy Kane on 100 Premier League goals. Ricky Hatton expresses concern on Tyson Fury's comeback. Nick Foles, Eagles quarterback: it was a hard-fought game. Chris Robshaw trains with teammates ahead of Italy clash. Comedian Kevin Hart talks about storming NFL Network set. Drunk Pep Guardiola reflects on Man City's 1-1 draw with Burnley. Pochettino on Spurs' amazing 2-2 draw against Liverpool. The dead Manchester United players: Jeff Bend, aged 25, Roger Byrne, aged 28, Eddie Coleman, aged 21, Duncan Edwards, aged 21, survived the crash but died in hospital 15 days later. Mark Jones, aged 24, David Pegg, aged 22, Tommy Taylor, aged 26, Billy Whelan, aged 22, Manchester United staff: Walter Crickmere, club secretary Tom Curry, trainer Bert Wally, chief coach, crew members: Captain Ken Raymond, co-pilot, survived the crash but died in hospital 3 weeks later. Tom Cable, cabin steward, journalists: Alf Clark, Manchester Evening Chronicle, Donny Davies, Manchester Guardian, George Follows, Daily Herald, Tom Jackson, Manchester Evening News, Archie Lubrook, Daily Mirror, Henry Rose, Daily Express, Frank Swift, News of the World, died on his way to hospital. Eric Thompson, Daily Mail. Other passengers: Bella Miklos, travel agent Willie Sadinoff, United supporter and close friend of Matt Busby. Survivors: Manchester United players: Johnny Berry, never played again; Jackie Blanchflower, never played again; Bobby Charlton, Bill Fowlkes, Harry Craig, Kenny Morgans, Albert Scanlon, Dennis Violet Raywood. Manchester United staff: Matt Busby, manager, crew members: Margaret Bellis, stewardess Rosemary Shiverton, stewardess George William, Bill Rogers, radio officer Captain James Payne, pilot, journalists and photographers: Ted Elliard, Daily Mail telegraphist Peter Howard, Daily Mail photographer Frank Taylor, News Chronicle reporter. Other passengers: Vera Lukic, wife of a Yugoslavian diplomat Vesna Lukic, her baby daughter Elena Miklos, wife of Bella Miklos, Nebojsa Beto Tomasevic. Yugoslavian diplomat fans have visited Duncan Edwards' grave in Birmingham to honor the youngest player to have been killed 15 days after the tragic plane crash. The ill-fated aircraft was bringing Matt Busby's youthful team back via Munich from Belgrade on February 6, 1958. After they had reached the European Cup semi-finals, the plane crashed on its third takeoff attempt in icy weather, costing the lives of 8 players and 3 members of the club's staff. 23 people died in total. Charlton and Harry Gregg are the only survivors out of the group of players who lived through the crash. The day that is absolutely shown in red on this week's calendar is on Tuesday, a day that marks the 60th anniversary of the air disaster. Spanish forward Juan Mata wrote in his blog on United's website, "The victims will never be forgotten. They will always be remembered and will be a part of United's history forever. The passion, determination and courage shown by the club to carry on in those horrible moments have left an indelible mark forever." Marcus Rashford, who follows in United's proud tradition of blooding young, homegrown players, said he learned about the disaster as a young child. "It was when I was about 7 or 8, the 20-year-old striker told United Review. There were already little things about it around the club at that age, but then you start to learn more about it. And when you got to 15 or 16, that was when former academy coach Paul McInnes really started to bring it to our attention. We used to watch a lot of the videos of games, especially from their FA Youth Cup runs. So we could see footage of what these players were like when they were young. It's so close to home. It touches your heart and helps you understand it. Even though you weren't there, Ashley Young took to Twitter earlier in the day to urge his teammates to take inspiration from the likes of Charlton. He wrote, "Today we remember and mourn, but we must also take inspiration from the response to the tragedy and people like Sir Bobby Charlton. It's a privilege for all of us to still have him around and active at Manchester United." John Valentine, who sells scarves outside Old Trafford, said the Munich crash is ingrained in the history of this club. "If I come back in another 500 years it will still be being talked about," said Valentine, born in the year of the disaster. "You can't forget something like that. A team nearly wiped out in a plane crash, among the 8 who died. The player most revered is halfback Edwards, who survived the crash but succumbed to his injuries 2 weeks later. I missed out on those players, but I have spoken to people who did and they talk about Duncan Edwards," said Valentine. Valentine says the fact around 2,000 United fans are due to go to Munich for the anniversary shows how important the events of February 1958 still are. Even to the young, Ken Brown, who was at Old Trafford with his father and fellow diehard United fan Everton on the day of his 9th birthday last week, reflected how it resonates even with youngsters, even though little footage remains of the babes. "I keep Ken up to date and brought him to see the memorial clock and see all the players who died. The anniversary is a big day for us," the 35-year-old said. Busby, who was twice given the last rites by a priest, remarkably survived the crash and guided United to an emotional win in the European Cup 10 years later, with Charlton captaining the side and scoring twice. "That was like the holy grail for the club," said Valentine. "Because of the crash in 1958, Busby wanted the cup for those boys who perished and the club. And we got it as well."
Where the freaks at?